Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with some more competitive Pokemon Sun and Moon information. This is about a Flygon buff. Now, this has been a long time coming and people have always asked for this, but Flygon now finally has access in Pokemon Sun and Moon to Dragon Dance. And this is pretty big on Flygon's part. As you can see here on Flygon's moveset, it gets it as one of its starting moves, so I'm pretty sure Heart Skill, whatever the hell it is, Flygon now has access to Dragon Dance. If you go through to Vibrava though and Trapinch, it doesn't have that, so you won't be seeing any of those. But Flygon now has access to Dragon Dance, and it's one of the few Dragon and Ground or pure Ground types that does have access to Dragon Dance. The other ones would be Zygarde, or not pure, but Zygarde's obviously Dragon and Ground, sporting that base 100 attack as well. But the other one would be Whiscash, Barboach, and then Larvitar and Pupitar. So those are the Pokemon that have the strongest Stab, Earthquake on their Dragon Dance attacks. But this definitely makes Flygon, I think, a bit more viable as a Pokemon. Dragon Dance lets it push that above the edge, not only having access to Levitate, so as well as being part Ground type, so it obviously has an immunity to Electric, but now it also, well, we already know it has an immunity to Ground because of Levitate, unless it's like a Mold Breaker one. So Dragon Dance Flygon has a bunch of cool options like, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, something that obviously Zygarde didn't have. I'm not talking about the new Zygarde, by the way, that thing is a monster, but this one has access to Dragon Claw outside of Outrage, whereas the other Zygarde had Dragon Tail and Outrage as its offensive options. And then there's other options such as Fire Punch, Outrage, Stone Edge, Superpower, things like that Flygon obviously has access to. So I think this is pretty cool. Definitely a buff for Flygon, the fact that it has access to Dragon Dance. It was already a really good Pokemon. I'm going to say in RU. I'm going to say it right now. Flygon was already a great Pokemon in the RU tier. And this is because it had so many great roles. You can compare it to Landorus and OU. Flygon in that tier could be offensive, it could be Life Orb, it can be Defog, it can be support, it can be special defensive. So Flygon had a lot of great roles in that, and the fact that Dragon Dance is now added to that is pretty crazy. A lot of people have been asking for Flygon or wanting Flygon to get Dragon Dance. They didn't understand why, and now it finally has it. And again, it has some really cool options. You could bluff as well with U-Turn. I'm not going to be talking too much about a Flygon set because I do want to do some moveset videos when Sun and Moon comes out, and I don't want to, spoil so much stuff because I'm not trying to make them all super common, though some of them will be, but there are a few sets you could use with this. But it's definitely a really cool option on Flygon. The fact that it has that boosted stat, now it can now compete with like Zards and stuff like that as Dragon Dance users, especially like regular Zygarde can compete with that. Lumberry, it doesn't have bad defenses as well. It's base 80 all around as well as HP, and just that base 100 speed is something that definitely allows it to outspeed or speed tie with Timid Gardevoir, unless it's Modest Gardevoir, obviously at that. So it's a really cool option on a Pokemon that also has recovery as well. And Dragon and Ground are both great stabs. I could see something being paired like this with maybe like a Magnezone or something to maybe trap something like Skarmory, maybe Lumberry or Leftovers being used, maybe Life Orb. But the fact that Flygon now has Dragon Dance is really cool and something that we wanted for a long time. It doesn't have extreme speed, obviously, that Zygarde has access to. If you actually look at its moveset, its physical moves that'll be affected by this: Earthquake, obviously Dragon Claw, and there's Dragon Rush if you want to use that. There's Rock Slide. Outside of that, it doesn't really have too many new moves, to say the least, but it still has access to U-Turn, which is still pretty cool on a Pokemon like this. Like, you could bluff the Dragon Dance set, you can go for U-Turn. Like, your opponent will never know what you think, or never know what you're doing with Flygon. Flygon will be one of those Pokemon like you have to see what it does before you guess its set. Because it just has so many options, and now Dragon Dance has been added to that, so it definitely makes Flygon one of the more versatile dragons that we have. I do want to know your thoughts. I think this is super cool. I personally wanted Flygon to get this, or a Mega, or be Bug Dragon. That's all things that I wanted for Flygon, but I'm glad that Flygon finally got Earthquake. Though with base 100 attack, it is still pretty weak. +1 Earthquake, for example, I'll show a calc on maybe Clefable, for example, and this will be from like Jolly Flygon, but we're just gonna make a choice band, which is the equivalent to +1. And Clefable, let's see, Unaware, Earthquake doing 45 to 53%, so it's 2% to 2 KO, but obviously it's Unaware Clefable, so it's Stealth Rock up, things like that. But you get +1, and then you get rid of Unaware. It's the exact same thing. So 45 to 53%. So it's not going to have that power necessarily to break through Pokemon, let's say like Capoudon, like Clefable, like fat Pokemon like that. Skarmory obviously not, but Flygon, again, it's one of those Pokemon that has so many tricks up its sleeve. It can run Draco, it can drop Dracos, it can run Fire Blast, it can run Mix, and now you have also to think about not even support Flygon, but also the Dragon Dance set as well. That's something you have to think about. So this is definitely a buff for Flygon, and I'm really interested to see, you know, what it brings to the meta, what type of mind games it's going to be with this Pokemon. And I do want to know your thoughts. You can leave them down below. But that's all you have out of me with this video. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. And again, I want to know your thoughts. Feel free to subscribe for more Sun and Moon content. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.